Every July in the quiet hills of northeast India, a community gathers, not to celebrate, but to mourn. They remember a dark chapter etched into their history, a time when the Indian army descended on their villages with a brutality that has never been forgotten. That chapter is known as Operation Bluebird. It is a story of violence, survival, and an unending struggle for justice. To understand why Operation Bluebird happened, you have to step back into the long, unfinished conflict of the Nagas. The struggle began the day before India became independent, when the Naga National Council declared their own independence on August 14, 1947. For decades, they demanded a sovereign homeland called Greater Nagalim. By the 1980s, a younger, more militant group, the NSCN, had taken the lead, and it was their actions that lit the spark for what was to come. On July 9, 1987, the NSCN launched a bold ambush. Their target, an Assam Rifles outpost near Oinam, a small village in Manipur. 9 soldiers were killed, weapons were looted, and the Indian army vowed revenge. Their answer was Operation Bluebird. Officially, it was meant to recover stolen weapons, but what followed was far from a simple search. For 3 long months, over 30 villages were turned into war zones. People were punished not for fighting, but simply for being there. And in the end, not a single gun was ever recovered. What Operation Bluebird became known for is not military victory, but the suffering it unleashed. Survivors later testified, many before Amnesty International, whose 73-page report still stands as a chilling record. More than 300 people were tortured. Villagers beaten, electrocuted, burned with cigarettes. Some were hung upside down, others buried alive. At least a dozen men, including a 65-year-old elder, were executed without trial. Official records tried to mask them as encounters or escape attempts. Women were not spared. Some were raped, others molested. Pregnant women were forced to give birth in front of soldiers. Even children were tortured. At least 4 died in custody because they were denied medical care. This was not chaos. This was systematic. A case study in torture and extrajudicial killings. When the brutality became unbearable, the villagers turned to their leaders. Manipur's chief minister wrote to Delhi, even meeting Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi. But instead of action, the army retaliated, accusing politicians of anti-national activities. The villagers then went to court. The Guwahati High Court took up their petition, but witnesses were harassed. Some were rearrested, tortured again, forced to retract their words. The army had the ultimate protection, AFSPA, the Armed Forces Special Powers Act, a law that gives soldiers sweeping powers, shielding them from prosecution unless the central government approves. That approval never came. The case dragged on for nearly 3 decades. In 2015, it was quietly dismissed. Not because justice was done, but because no records were found, as if the suffering had never happened. Operation Bluebird left behind more than destroyed villages. It left a wound that never healed. For many, it proved that the law protects the uniform, not the citizen. And yet, every July, the people remember. They gather to mourn, to testify, to refuse silence. Their remembrance is itself resistance, a way of saying, we will not let you erase this. The state may have buried the evidence, but the memory of Bluebird lives on.